Welcome to the Network Break Quick Take for July 23rd, 2021. We're talking today about research being conducted by the ARM consortium to build flexible microprocessors using materials other than silicon.
Really exciting. This is quite neat, Drew, I think. The idea here is that they're trying to build CPUs that are not on a silicon substrate, which is not something that we've heard very much about. So the idea, and it's flexible. So it's a plastic substrate, which is flexible. And the press release from ARM, which is links on the Packet Pushers website, uses thin film semiconductor materials such as organics, metal oxides, or amorphous silicon, and they offer a number of advantages over silicon, such as thinness, conformability, which is you can shape them, and low manufacturing costs. How low? So they're talking about 100 times lower capital investment, and you keep in mind that a normal silicon fab is like a minimum of 4 billion, and for a very high resolution is 10 billion plus. 100 times smaller footprint. So these things are not football pitch sized; they're room sized, and 100 times faster production cycle than a conventional silicon fab. So they're talking about producing plastic CPUs in 1 day compared to 3 to 6 months. Did you realize that a traditional CPU took 3 to 6 months to go through the production line?
I did not, and having a one-day turnaround is amazing. Although I will say the specs on these are not super great, so this isn't the kind of silicon you're going to be running, a heavyweight application on.
No, this CPU looks like a Pilot, and they call it ultra minimalist. So considering that it's got 128 bytes of RAM and 456 bytes of ROM, ultra minimalist would be understating how ultra minimalist.
Smart branding right there.
That's some really hard work in the marketing. That term, ultra minimalist, are doing a lot of work, but it is a Cortex M0 based and SoC. It's a system on a chip, so everything's there in that test thing. I like to think that this is a proof of idea. They called it the Plastic Arm Pit Project, which I think is pretty funny.
It's pretty funny. Nice to see they have a sense of humor about it.
So it's on plastic, it's ARM, and it uses PragmatIC's Flex Logic IC manufacturing. Now, apparently they've been trying to get this working for a number of years, and they felt that in 2020 that they felt that something had changed enough for ARM to give it another go, and they've basically proved it. Now, there's links in the show notes to the ARM has published a white paper on this and more details about how they're using metal foil or active thin film semiconductors. And they note that there's going to be lots of users, particularly one like intelligent disposable health monitoring. So if you could imagine a little thing that a sensor that you tick on, and it's got a little CPU and a sensor maybe to wake up and take a reading of some sort or whatever. It's flexible, so it's not hard. It doesn't need to be embedded in a plastic, like a wristwatch has to be strapped on. It could be really interesting to see how that works out. I think it's quite interesting to see. Feels like not more of the same. This feels like a step change from normal CPUs.
And it's a whole bunch of different applications. It's not supposed to be in a phone or a computer. It's more about a sensor, or even what they're calling intelligent packaging, which I assume means, if you've got some product that needs to be regulated at a specific temperature, you could use a sensor here. The thing you mentioned disposable, that's what worries me. We already have an e-waste issue. And if we're pumping out even more stuff that's disposable, that creates an e-waste problem. And I'm also concerned about sort of unnecessary applications like, sticking some kind of sensor on a gallon of milk to tell your smart fridge that it's low on milk and maybe you should buy more, and it sends me a text.
On the other hand, it could smooth out your supply chain, right? It could track where you are in the supply chain, keep a log of all the locations that it traveled through and how long it was in those locations, and identify where the problems are in the distribution network so that less food gets wasted or less resources get wasted potentially.
There's definitely two sides to this. Yeah.
Yes. I know which side I think will happen.
Right. I know which side I think will happen too, which is it's going to be on the milk carton in your refrigerator.
But I'm in an optimistic mood today, Drew. Yeah, I'm in an optimistic mood. Let's believe in the good in society.
All right.
So really interesting. A combination of ARM's design talent and its ability to produce CPUs and bringing its intellectual property to the game here, and a company called PragmatIC doing flexible printing of these devices on foil or thin film transistors. Really, really interesting. Probably worth a bit of a poke at this just for your own edification.
We'll put a link to the story in the YouTube comment section if you want to check it out. Thank you for watching the Network Break Quick Take. You can hear the full episode of Network Break. Look for episode 343 at packetpushers.net. Bye-bye.